Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're doing great. We're going to continue working on my 47RE to NV4500 conversion. In today's video, we're going to remove the fluid as much as we can from the transmission and essentially just remove everything that we can and get it as prepared as we can to remove it. So for the next video after this one, we'll be removing it and doing internal stuff and just really removing as much as we can to prepare for installation and removal. So right now we're going to get started on removing the fluid. There's no fun way to do it except for maybe sucking it through the dipstick tube, but I don't have anything to kind of suck it through there, so we're just going to have to take an ATF bath. So we're going to remove the fluid and then start working on the coolers and on the lines and stuff like that, and hopefully we can save them and then torque converter bolts and just try to get this thing moving along to get removed. So yeah, let's get to it. Okay everyone, so far all that I've done is remove the transmission pan. It's right there. They're held in by 13mm bolts. I've got like a whole giant collection of them right there. Just used a little impact and got them off. And a bunch of fluid's gonna come shooting out, so if you're able to suck it through the dipstick tube, that's a really good way of doing it. I'm just gonna clean this up real quick here, and then we're gonna carry on with the next step. Okay guys, so now that you've got the transmission pan drained and taken out and put back on with the bolts and stuff like that so it's not spilling everywhere, we're going to move to the front of the vehicle and we have to remove the transmission cooler, basically grid, and we're going to remove it with these 10mm bolts. There's 3 of them. There's one here, one right here, and then one way down there. So we're going to get to removing this, and then there's the transmission cooler lines that go to the back of the transmission, and then they run over to the transmission like tube cooler thing that sits on the side of the engine, and we're going to remove that as well. So we're going to get to removing this, and then I'll be right back. Okay guys, quick update. I removed the 4x4 just sort of shift apparatus here. This just unbolts from the inside of the cab here with a nut. You have to pry the knob 4 high and 2 low type of selector thing out, and then there's a nut on the inside of the knob. I think it was like a 12 or 11mm. I think it's actually more of a 12 or 13mm. Apologies. You unbolt that, and then the knob should screw off lefty-loosey, and then this just dropped through the floor there. Then I removed the vacuum lines here for the 4x4 actuation. Those are 10mm bolts on the side of the frame. Right here, there's just one up there in the front, and then one back here. So I just removed those 2 10mm bolts. And then I came over to the side of the transmission, and I removed all the connections. So this is your this is the TV linkage. So this is going to select sort of your the gears, and this just kind of clipped into this little bracket right here. I don't know if you can see, but right here there is a bracket, and you just pop that out with a pry bar, and this goes onto the linkage selector right in here, and this literally just popped out. I just grabbed the end of this right here and just popped it out. Then I came up above here and removed more of the linkage right up top here, and this just had a cotter pin and a washer, and I took the cotter pin out and just pried it with the pry bar, and it popped out of this hole right here. Then what I did is I took an 18mm socket, and there's a bracket on the transmission bell housing that you can kind of see right up here. I don't know if you can see with the light, but right up there, kind of where my finger is, there's an 18mm nut on the back here. I took that off, and that just removed it from the rest of the linkage right here. The rest of this is going to have to be taken out on the side of the frame for right now. I'm gonna get to that in a second. There's a couple there's quite a bit of electrical connections actually. Let me just move the light really quick. So you have, there's an electrical connection to your transmission up above right here. there is your reverse neutral lights right here, and this went into the side right there. I removed that. And then you have a vacuum tree again still, like we did before, on top of your transfer case. This is for the 4x4 and other vacuum accessories. So you have to remove all the electrical connections. This one was kind of a pain in the butt to remove. I twisted it to the left and you just kind of gently pried it out. I might have twisted this a little bit, but I think it's still okay. Then there's another electrical connection at the top right here, that plugged into the side of the transmission right where my hand is, kind of right in here, just kind of up and down. And there was a spring for me. There was a spring right here that kind of got hooked onto the bracket that I took off earlier, like I said. And now what we're gonna focus on is removing these transmission cooler lines and transmission fluid lines. And then I think this transmission is actually going to be able to come out. We just have to remove the bracket here and the bracing on the side of the frame, because it's going to be a pain in the butt later to remove the transmission as a whole. And we're going to try to remove these lines. There's a cooler on the side of your engine block on the passenger side that we're going to have to remove those from. And I think I can remove one of the transmission cooler lines right here. I'm not sure. I'm going to try to. We're going to try our best. Try to remove it there and anywhere we can. And yes, also I removed the front trans cooler. I'll go and show you that in a second. Okay, I got the transmission cooler right here. I had removed the two connections right here. Somebody, I guess in the past, or I don't know if this came from factory with constant tension clamps, but there's hoses here. This is just to help cool down the transmission if you're towing and stuff for heavy duty applications. Just remove the two hose clamps and I pulled them off. Now this whole cooler came out after I had removed 3 bolts for the front bumper, and I loosened one of the bracket bolts that hold the horns on the driver's side, and then I was able to pull the bumper out a little bit, and I was able to snake this whole thing out. So this was kind of hard. I had to like twist it and pull it up. So it might take you a minute, it might take you a while. I was doing it in like windy rain, so yeah, I wasn't really too excited to film at that point, but that's this. Now we're going to get to removing those trans lines like I showed you. Hey guys, I just want to show you something really quick that I was noticing. I couldn't really find too much information on that I thought is important. So when I'm removing that side bracket that comes down from the transmission, right here I was telling you guys about with the 18mm bolt that bolts up to the side of your frame. So I removed it right here. They were two 14mm bolts. They look like this. They were swollen, I guess, for me, so I don't know. They might be less or more for you. Your results might vary. So I just took an impact to that, and then this whole shift linkage actually goes up to your steering column, and it comes up to the driver's side, and it comes up to right here. So you're going to have to pull that out. I just used a couple pry bars and pried on that little bushing right there. And the bushing can stay in. You might want to lubricate it in case you tear it. So just be careful right there. And then now we're going to get to the transmission lines as well. All right, everybody. Some time has passed. I've gotten quite a bit of work done and the transmission's ready to come out. So this is the bracket where we left off, where you take it off of the steering wheel column thingy. So that comes off. I had 2 lines. Everyone should have 2 lines that go to the transmission cooler and come back. Now mine they're kind of rusty, and it's such a big tube wall, so it just started to spin in the connections that go to the transmission, so they just snapped off. I had to pull them out, unfortunately. You're gonna have to remove your dipstick tube. It should be kind of easy to remove. Mine, I was able to luckily just wiggle it after you unbolt the bell housing for the transmission. You kind of just wiggle it and it should come out. And then, yeah, let me show you here. So this is the bracket that had that 8mm or 18mm bolt that the steering column bracket went into. Now you have 6 torque converter bolts. I believe these are a 14 millimeter for me. I removed that. This is the inspection cover that sits on the back of your engine, and you have two 10 millimeter bolts right there. And then you should have like this little black plug that sits on the adapter plate on the back of your engine that you can just pull off and then stick your barring tool in there and rotate the engine that way, which I do have a barring tool, and I'll show you in just a second. Alright guys, here's the barring tool that I was using. I was using this in combination with just using a plain old pry bar and just rotating the engine that way. And then I took out the I think they were 14 mil, no, they were I believe they were 16 or 15 millimeter bolts. I think they're a 15 millimeter bolt. And let me show you where you kind of have to pull them out. It's by feel. Okay guys, so right up in there, this is the passenger side of the engine and the vehicle, and right up in there, it's really hard for me to kind of see the uppermost hole. It's where you're going to be able to access your torque converter bolts, and then the lower ones where you stick the barring tool in there, and they're two 10 millimeter bolts holding on that inspection cover plate. And now you have 8 14 millimeter bell housing bolts that are going to hold the bell housing onto the transmission to the engine, and I've got 3 ratchet straps going onto a pretty long block of wood and just a regular floor jack, sort of centered as best as I could, and got this thing just as safe as I could. I got a ratchet strapped on like a bunch of places on the on the jack itself, because I'm not using a transmission jack, and yeah, I can see that it's already starting to separate on top. So we're going to try to remove this thing as safely as we can, and yeah, I'll be with you in just a second. Alright guys, ill-equipped one-man army back again. Got the transmission completely separated and down out from the back of the engine. I replaced my rear main seal too when I had pulled the engine out at some point, and it looks really clean still so far, so I'm really happy and excited to see that. We're still going to clean a few things up, and I'm going to try to, this is super sketchy, I'm going to try to pull this out somehow. What we're going to do is kind of bring it towards the rear of the vehicle. I'm going to try to bring it out as back far towards the rear end there as possible. Just sort of drag it somehow. And yeah, then we're going to try to prepare the rest of the end stuff for the installation of the NV4500. I'm so excited. This is so awesome. It's been a long process. It's been exciting. It's been great. So now we're just going to kind of back this up as much as I can. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but we're going to try. And yeah, I'll catch you guys when this thing is out. And yeah, here we go. Alrighty guys, there she is in all of her nasty, sludgy, oily beauty right here. I'm freaking excited. I'm so stoked I got it out. Man, it was really freaking hard getting it out, but I was able to use the floor jack after I got it off of the jack, and I jacked up the frame in the rear end just a little bit, and I was able to get the transmission bell housing to clear through the widest part in the rear end. So this thing came out, and man, it was a pain in the butt. So no more automatic for now. Super greasy, but there was nothing really wrong with it either. And yeah, the previous owner had put in like an ATS, like stage 3 torque converter, and I think a valve body, and they did a ton of work on it, and I have all the paperwork to show. It was like $3 grand or something like that. But there was nothing wrong with it. I don't know, I'm just kind of want some gears to grind, and I know that the NV4500 is a slick transmission, so I'm super excited to use it, and going to be fully mechanical. I don't want anything electronic on this vehicle. That's pretty much my goal. That was pretty much the only reason. Another update, I painted the transmission, so I'm really excited about this. It came out a little more red than I wanted, but I think it looks pretty good, and I'm really excited to stab that thing in. I also cleaned up the transfer case. I think I was saying in maybe one of the previous segments that, yeah, I was going to clean it up. Man, this thing was so greasy, but I ended up using LA's awesome multi-purpose spray from like the dollar store. You can go and pick it up for, well, now it's the $1.25 store, so because of inflation and stuff. But man, yeah, it came out really good. Super excited. We're going to clean this up a little bit more too, and then we'll be doing all the last little bits for the NV4500 to go in, so stay tuned for that. Alright guys, that's going to be a wrap for today's video. The main goal for this video was just to get the 47RE out so we can kind of make room for the NV4500. Super excited. Man, it was really hard. This is definitely a big project. So far it's going okay. I'd probably say I got this done in like a weekend and a half now so far, so we're gonna keep moving around, keep moving things along, and the next couple weekends or so I'll just be kind of stabbing away at this thing, and it's going to be really excited. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe and check out the next series of videos that are going to be coming out for this, and yeah, drop a like if you really like this video, and comment down below if you have any questions on any of the videos, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one.